Hello everybody and welcome to video 2 of the Northwind Wolves reactions. Now, as I said in the first video, after I checked out a track by Northwind Wolves a week or so ago, they approached me and asked me if I wouldn't mind having a look at and talking about their upcoming album, Mountains and Darkness, which is due out sometime later this year, possibly sometime around December. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't got a confirmed release date as yet. Now, as I said, I've checked out Northwind Wolves before when I can't even remember the name of the track. The Light Before the Frozen Darkness, I think it was. I can't be absolutely sure. You know, I checked that track out, and I was really interested by them because the style of music, you know, they're black metal, but the variations in styles that they put into their music, it makes it really interesting. It's not what I'd consider to be traditional black metal, and you know, it sort of really intrigued me, and I was interested to hear more. So the band actually approached me and asked me if I wouldn't mind looking at this album and talking about it a bit and doing a bit of a sort of preview / review of it. So I think we'll get straight into it with the first track, which is Before Dawn's First Light. And this track itself is very reminiscent, or to me, it reminds me a lot of Spiritual Black Dimensions era Dimmu Borgir. Let's give it a quick listen. Now, this track seems to be told from the perspective of a soldier contemplating a battle that lies ahead whilst he's watching the sunrise over mountains in the distance. I can't be entirely sure, you know, I could be making up everything that I've picked up from tracks on this album. I really don't know. But there's a couple of lines in the song. It says, "I see myself in your ways, yet there's so much to learn." You know, so I see so much in your ways, you know, so I can see the similarities between us, you know, I can see that we share a lot of common ground, but there's that part of the line, yet there's so much to learn. So he's like, you know, I see a lot of ourselves in you, but there are certain things about your way of life that are just so vastly different. The way that, you know, your communities exist, the like rituals and religions and stuff that you support is so different to mine, you know, there's so much more to learn about you. Excuse me. And you know, obviously, like I said, this sounds like a soldier who is going to be facing this large battle against this foe. And there's a line that says, "Is it evil who rules the day, or will daylight return?" Which sounds like, you know, will this invading army win the day? You know, will evil rule the day, or will daylight return? It's like, will this army that is going to be attacked see another day? Will they survive this onslaught? You know, will the daylight return? Will they see another day? And it's suggested later with a line that says, "I am so evil," which suggests that this soldier that is having this contemplation is actually part of the invading army. So, you know, it's quite an interesting song, and like I said, it's got a very cool sort of old school Dimmu Borgir sort of sound to it, and you know, it's a very great track to open with. It's got a fantastic sort of opening riff to the song. You know, the intro to the track is a great opening to the album. Fantastic piece of music. We then move on to track 2, Lord of Winter and Death, which I've just done a reaction video to, which you can see if you just follow this little card up here. You can go and watch that and then come back if you fancy. Again, a very cool track, and I believe I compared that one to Anthems to the Welkin at Dusk era Emperor. Very good track. So being that I've already talked about that, let's move on to track 3, Death of the Lost World. Now, this track, for me personally, it had a lot of a bit of a feel to Immortal to it, sort of like, you know, Sons of Northern Darkness sort of thing. It's, you know, really fast, really heavy, and has some brilliant and wonderful atmospheric keyboards in the background. It sounds amazing. Now, the track itself, I think, could possibly be told from the perspective of Death himself, talking about the inevitability of death, but it seems like whoever he is talking to is an inherently evil person who's being taken to hell. Now, excuse me. There is actually the line towards the end of the track which says, "Here rivers flow with tears of hate," which to me suggests he's talking about the rivers of Hades, like the river Styx and stuff like that, where, like, you know, the rivers of the souls of all these evil and bad people, you know, that sort of thing. That's what it suggests to me. I could be wrong, but yeah, you know, this is one of the things I like about this band. You know, within the first 3 tracks, we've heard so much variation in the musical styles. You know, first track reminds me of Dimmu, second reminds me of Emperor, third track reminds me of Immortal. You know, and this is what I really liked about the band, is the variation in the styles that they used. We then moved on to track 4, Unholy Forest of Wolves Part 1. On the album it's just called Unholy Forest of Wolves, but there is a part 2 later on, so I've just called it part 1 for the time being. Now, as with Lord of Winter and Death, this track reminds me of Anthems to the Welkin at Dusk era Emperor, although I have to say with considerably better mixing and more sort of Dimmu Borgir style vocals rather than the Isan vocals. But again, fast, heavy, absolutely relentless in its pacing, fantastic piece of music. And the song possibly seems to be about a small band of men on the hunt for a werewolf-like creature. I could be completely wrong. You know, because they make this statement, "It felt like dawn when we started this path. The forest was silent, a foreboding wrath, a storm which possessed me, clouds blocked the skies. The shadows within me compelled me to fight." So, you know, it sounds like, you know, this party has heard that this creature, whatever it might be, is out there lurking. So they've set out at dawn on an expedition to find this creature and destroy it. You know, and as the night sets in, you know, they feel the tension and the sense that this creature is going to come out at any time and attack them. But, you know, this also makes them want to rid the world of this creature more and more. And the thing that makes me think it's about a werewolf-like creature is there is a line that says, wolves calls echo into the night, his hands become claws, his smile to a snarl, a murderous streak of his mind. So, you know, his hands become claws, his smile a snarl. You know, it sounds like somebody transforming into a werewolf. I could be completely wrong, I could be just making stuff up, I don't know. But another very, very good track, and, you know, it's really enjoyable, this album. You know, I've listened to it several times over the last week or so since I reacted to the first track. You know, I've listened to it a dozen times and I still really enjoy it every time because there is so much variation in the music. Then we come to track 5, so we're halfway through the album already. Track 5 called Pale Winter Storm Lightning. Now this track has a proper old school black metal sound to it, with a lot of melodic black metal elements thrown into it. And again, it seems to have some proper old school black metal themes going on in the lyrics, and as I've said before, old school black metal doesn't tend to have much of a deep meaning behind it. You know, it's all sort of about magic, mountains and forests. But it's possible, and again, I could be just reading too much into stuff and making stuff up. It sounds to me like it could possibly be about vampires, you know, classic black metal stuff. And the only thing that makes me think that is a couple of lines which say, "Come with me to another time, behold the wonders of fresh blood. As I am now, soon you will be, through the evil veil of death to eternity." You know, come with me to another time, behold the wonders of fresh blood. I mean, that's pretty much seems to, you know, behold the wonders of fresh blood, you know, enjoy fresh blood, you know, use it to sustain you. As I am now, soon you'll be, you know, I am a vampire and I am going to turn you into one, and through the veil of death to eternity. So, like they said in Anne Rice's interview with the vampire, your body has to die before you can become resurrected as a vampire. That's what it seems to be. Like I said, I could be completely wrong. I could be just making stuff up, but it was a great track, like I said, proper old school black metal feeling track. Really quite liked it. And that brings us to one of the longest tracks on the album. I think it's the second longest track after the opening track, in fact. And the track is called Ludmilla the Witch. Now, this track, excuse me, for me feels a lot less pure black metal. Despite having all the elements of black metal in there, and it's still an excellent, fast and heavy track with all the atmospheric keyboards, you know, in the background. It just doesn't feel like what I would consider a normal black metal track. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it just feels different to pretty much the rest of the album, actually. But it's not a bad thing in any shape, way or form. And that's one of the things that drew me to this band in the first place, is the variation that they put into the music, and the fact that their black metal doesn't sound like regular traditional black metal. It's a sort of style of black metal that I don't think I've ever actually heard before, because of the variation in the music. Now, this track, titled Ludmilla the Witch, as I said before, is obviously a story about a witch called Ludmilla, apparently, who seems to like seduce men to possibly safeguard her, keeping them as servants, or something like that, so she's surrounded by people that will protect her while she's in a vulnerable state or not, and anybody that refuses to help or fall under her spell is killed. Because there's a couple of lines there. It says, "Shake my soul down to its core, leave me wanting even more. If I could warn myself before, kill this mother***ing whore. I stood there with a choice to make, do it now for heaven's sake. The ones who die are innocent, pay for choices we don't make." So, where it says, like, shake my soul to its core, leave me wanting even more, she's given him promises of possibly treasures or, carnal pleasures or something like that, and he's under this spell. He wants it, he needs it, he's craving it, but in the back of his mind he's like, I should have done something about this before. It's like, if I could warn myself before, kill this motherfucking whore. He's like, if I could just go back to the moment before this happened, I would tell myself, don't fall for this, just kill the damn thing, get it over with, because I don't want to be subservient to this woman, yet somehow she's lured me in and now I'm addicted, sort of thing. And it says, I stood there with a choice to make, do it now for heaven's sake. The ones who die are innocent for choices we don't make. So it's like, he stood there with the choice, either fall under her spell or kill her, and because he didn't make the choice to kill her, innocent people are dying. So, like I said before, it's a really good track because of how different it is. It's got a really interesting sound. It sounds really, really good. A fantastic track. And that brings us to the title track, Mountains and Darkness.
Such a wonderful time when the shadows are long, the two on the street where the vermin belong. Gently I stir your emotions to rage. We are the last of a dying age. Oh, but hail this time today. We live our lives in our own way. Cloaking sunlight, lightning sky from darkest corners. Vermin rise, out on the mountains descend into fall. You lie with the scales of the devil. On the mountains could see when you try to explain. A horse in the night with the moon on his mane.
Now, this is actually the shortest track on the album, just over 2 minutes and 50. I think it's 2:52, possibly. But even though it's such a short song, don't let it fool you, because there is so much going on in the track. It doesn't let up from the moment its opening bars play. It's fast, it's heavy, and it's possibly one of my favourite tracks off the album. It's a really good track. Even though it's really short, it's a very, very good track. The song itself, I can't really make out any particular theme for it. It sounds like it. It opens up sounding like a conversation between two people. Where it goes, "'Tis a wonderful time where the shadows are long, where the two of us drink, where the vermin belong. Gently I stir your emotions to rage, we are the last of a dying age." So, it sounds like possibly an elder from a tribe of some sort is talking to a younger person of the same tribe, possibly a tribe that's been decimated, seems though he's saying, "We are the last of a dying age." And he's talking to this person and telling him of the past and what's happened to the tribe and why, why the tribe has become decimated. So it says, "Gently I stir your emotions to rage." So, this person's getting wound up hearing about, what's happened to the tribe and why. But then as soon as we come out of that opening verse, it seems to fall into what I would call typical black metal lyrics, where then it all starts talking about the mountains, forests, and demons. But again, he could just be describing how their home used to be before their clan was wiped out, maybe. I'm not sure. I mean, they could also just be talking about nature itself. They could be talking about the world dying, possibly, because there is a line that says, "But in the darkness of the night we separate what's wrong from right, her body still in weeping hills until her pendant turns to dust." Now, that could be talking about a mother or wife, possibly, but it could also be talking about Mother Nature. You know, her body still in weeping hills. You know, Mother Nature exists in all things on this planet. It says, until her pendant turns to dust. Now, is the pendant the earth itself? You know, as nature is sort of a all-consuming, all-encompassing thing, would the pendant, you know, the jewel, as it were, be the earth, which is dying? I'm not sure, but it was. It's a great song, like I said, and possibly one of my favourites off the album. Despite its really short playtime. A very, very good track. Fantastic. But then that brings us on to my actual favourite track off the entire album. A track called A Night Called Death. Now, this track again shows the variation in their musical style, and you know, the thing that made this band so interesting to me, because to me this is possibly the most grand, melodic and epic piece of music on the album. I absolutely love the style of it. You know, it's actually the slowest track off the album as well, and you know, it's just a fantastic piece of music, a fantastic song. I love the whole thing. And in some ways, the track itself, it almost sounds like almost like I want to say a prayer, but that's not what I mean. Excuse me. Oh, excuse me a second. As I was saying, it sounds like somebody who is asking death to help him in an upcoming battle, you know, to protect his village or his tribe, you know, to help him save his people. You know, he's asking the god of death, please help me in this battle. And there's a line that's repeated a few times throughout the song. It says, "Fast rode the knight," death, "with his hand on his sword, wearily, drearily vanquished the horde." So, you know, this guy's sort of like, death is with me. I have, you know, he has come with me. He has helped slaughter this invading army, or he's helped slaughter this army. You know, because it says fast rode the knight. That knight obviously being death, with his hand on his sword, warily, drearily vanquished the horde. So he's believing that death is by his side, helping him slaughter these people that are trying to kill his tribe or his village or whatever. And it carries on with a line saying, "Leave not the weakest to perish tonight. Take on aggressors in one final fight." This is what makes me think that he's trying to protect his like village or his tribe or whatever. You know, leave not the weakest to perish tonight, like the women and children of his village, tribe, or whatever. You know, protect them and come with me, and you know, help me kill this invading army that is trying to take our land from us as such. So, you know, I really like this. Like I said, it's my favourite track off the album. It's just so fantastic. You know, I like slow music because I love my doom music, but this is different. obviously, to Doom. And, excuse me, again, this is another track that shows the variation in styles that this band employs, and the thing that makes them so interesting to me. And then we move on to track 9, which is the Unholy Forest of Wolves Part 2. Now, again, like the first part, this track has a feeling of Emperor about it, with a little bit of Immortal thrown in there just for good measure. And it seems to be like a continuation of the previous track, possibly suggesting the aftermath of the band that were hunting this werewolf-like creature, and where it seems like the hunters themselves have destroyed the forest just to find this one creature, and it's possibly even told from the perspective of the creature. It says, "The forest weeps where barren lands lay. I'm wandering through the foretold wooded path, an evergreen sprout where tall pines ruled, dark and dripping blood scent of ghouls." So, it sounds like they've destroyed the forest to try and find this werewolf-like creature, and this creature possibly even destroyed the band that were trying to find him, and he's just walking through the decimated land. It says, "The forest weeps where barren lands lay. I'm wandering through the foretold wooden path, an evergreen sprout where tall pines ruled." So, he's walking through this decimated land, and he sees like the sprout of a newly growing tree in place where there used to be thousands of other trees. So he's fought against this band of people, possibly destroyed them. He's come out victorious, but his home has been decimated and destroyed. And again, fantastic piece of music. It's, I can't say it enough. I just love the variation in this band. But then we come on to the final track, Curse of Ages.
Someday the world will end in fire, and the battle rages on eternal. Someday we'll be cursed by wicked, frozen skies. Only time will tell, perpetually killing a world with no mercy. To play our roles, the rules of old, to pierce the veil, inscribed in codes, I hold with notes, the quest for hell.
Now, this is actually the second shortest track on the album at just 2 minutes and 55 seconds. But again, this is another fast and relentless track in its execution. And it actually reminds me of a track from Hecate Throne's album Dark Requiems and Unsilent Massacre. But for the life of me, I cannot think of the track that it reminds me of. And, this is another step in a variation of their music. Before we've had like Immortal, we've had Dimmu Borgir, we've had Emperor, and now we've got a bit of Hecate Throne thrown in. Again, this is what I love about the band. The variation that they put into the music is phenomenal. And the track Curse of Ages seems to be talking about possibly the end of the world. Whether or not it will come about by Armageddon itself or by our own making. The opening lines to the song say, "Some say the world will end in fire, and the battle rages on eternal. Some say we'll be cursed by wicked frozen skies." So, everybody who knows anything about the Bible or stuff like that, Armageddon is always said to be like the earth being bathed in fire, you know, the sky is filled with flame, you know, and God's fury and all that sort of stuff. And then there's the other aspect where we're destroying the earth and we'll possibly end up causing a second ice age and an eternal winter. So the world will either come to end by God's hand or by our own. And there's a couple of other lines which says, "Only time will tell. Perpetually killing our world with no mercy." Gives us a suggestion that it's us who is responsible for the death of our world. Eventually, we're going to be the people that kill the planet. And if we don't do something about it, the end of the world is going to come up a lot faster than we're expecting. The way we're living our lives at the moment, we're just living for the moment that we have. We're not thinking about what we're doing to the planet for future generations. As long as we're happy in the here and now, who cares what happens after we die? It's none of our business. That's what it seems to be saying. But if we carry on the way we're going, we're going to bring about the end a lot sooner than that. So it's a really good track, and it's got a really good meaning if I'm reading it right. Like I said earlier, I could just be completely making up stuff for these tracks, but this is what I am taking away from them. This is my personal takeaway from each track. So, the album as a whole is great. I absolutely love it. The downside to it is just shy of 40 minutes long. It's about 39 and some change. And, so unfortunately the album seems to be over with very, very quickly. But it's such a good album, it's so enjoyable. It throws in Dimmu Borgir, Emperor, Immortal, Hecate Enthroned. The variation in styles, I've said this many times throughout this video, is one of the things that makes me listen to it over and over again. Normally when I listen to a black metal album, I'll listen to it and then put it to the side and give it maybe, a few days, maybe a week or so. But, like I say, I've listened to this album quite a few times in the last week or so. Just because it is such an enjoyable album. And because, as I said before, I find black metal can get very, very samey after a while. You hear one track, you hear the next track and the next track, and you sort of... It doesn't register that you're listening to a new song. But this one, the variation between tracks is so significant that you know when one track ends and another track starts. There is enough difference between the tracks that you pay attention, you notice when a track changes. It's something that I like, because I do like black metal, but I can get a bit bored of it very easily. But the way that they keep changing things up, it keeps it interesting. And the fact that they don't stick to traditional black metal styles is something else that I really like. For the most part, it's definitely black metal, but there's elements in there that just sort of change it up a bit and sort of make you go, hold on, this doesn't sound like black metal. And like I said, occasionally you get a bit of black and death metal thrown in there. It's a really good album, and the band as a whole are very, very interesting, a very, very nice bunch of people as well. And a very, very interesting band, and it's definitely worth giving it a proper listen. When the album comes out, I would highly recommend giving the whole album a listen. You can find it through Blackline Records when it eventually comes out. I'm sure they'll be releasing other singles off the album as they come to approach the release date for the album. Like I said, I don't have a definitive release date for the album, but I believe it's somewhere around the end of the year, possibly December. But there we go. That was Mountains and Darkness by Northwind Wolves. Again, like I said, fantastic album, definitely worth checking it out. So yeah, I'm going to leave that as it is for now. If anybody would like to suggest a track for me to react to, then please do so by all means. You can drop a comment in the comment section below, or message me on my Facebook or my Instagram. You can even message me on my Patreon should you wish, and you could even help support me at my Patreon, help me create more content in the future, maybe make some improvements to the way I do my videos. That would be really, really cool. Do know though, if you do make a suggestion, it probably take me a while to get around to it, because I get suggested dozens of tracks every single day. For every video I put out, I get suggested another 12 songs, so my list grows faster than I can record the videos. But I do write down every suggestion I get, so it will get done eventually. It's just going to take me a while to get around to it. Also, Metalhead Reacts is a proud supporter of the Sophie Lancaster Foundation. They are a British-based charity whose main focus is to put an end to hate crimes, mainly those perpetrated against people of the alternative culture. Obviously, they want to put an end to all hate crimes, but these crimes that are perpetrated against the alternative culture are their main reason for the foundation, being brought into existence. Because, every single day, all over the world, people who listen to alternative music are getting viciously attacked, verbally, physically attacked, brutalized, hospitalized, just because of the kind of music and clothing that they have. They listen to alternative music, they wear alternative clothing, and they are getting attacked for this fact, and it makes no sense to me. You don't attack someone because of the movies they like, because they like a different movie to you, because they like Star Trek instead of Star Wars. You don't attack someone because of the books they like, they like, I don't know, 50 Shades of Grey instead of Hunger Games. That sort. I know those two books aren't really comparable, but you know what I mean. You don't attack someone because they like different kind of books to you. You don't attack someone because they like different flavour ice cream or different flavour crisps to you, do you? So why would you attack someone because of the style of music that they prefer? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't affect or impact your life in any way. If you don't like the clothes that someone is wearing, just don't look at them. It's simple as that. There are infinite other directions you can look in. Shift your gaze 1 centimetre to the side, you're not looking at them anymore. It's simple. But it is not an excuse to violently attack someone just because they have made a different choice to you. Everybody has the right to be an individual, and nobody deserves to be beaten or attacked just because of their taste in music. And when it comes to the point where a young woman, Sophie Lancaster, gets beaten to death just because of her taste in clothes and music, things have gone way too far. I can understand having an opinion against music, that's fine, but to actually beat someone so viciously that they die from their injuries just because you don't like the music that they listen to, it's beyond reprehensible, it is disgusting, it should not ever happen. And this is exactly what the Sophie Lancaster Foundation is trying to do. They want to put an end to this happening, because they don't want to see anybody else go through what they went through when their daughter was so brutally beaten just because of the music that she listened to. It's unacceptable. So if you'd like to find out more about the Sophie Lancaster Foundation, there is a link to their website in the description below. You can pop over there, find out what they're working on at the moment, find out what their goal is, because they can explain it so much better than I can, because I go off on random mad rants and tangents. And if you can help them in any small way, even something as simple as one of these Sophie bracelets, I think they're like £1 on their web store. They have a whole bunch of other merchandise on there which is worth checking out. But if you can help them in any small way, the smallest amount makes the biggest difference. And the sooner we bring more attention to this, the sooner we can stamp out prejudice, hatred and intolerance everywhere. But I'm going to leave that as it is for the time being. Thank you all very, very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye bye.